With this upcoming school year, and all the kids are headed back to in-person learning, can we rely on them to organize their school strikes to get us to where we need to be?
Definitely, yeah. I think especially as restrictions are easing in many places, lockdowns are easing, more and more people are getting vaccinated. We're seeing a revitalization in the global climate movement, especially in the lead up to the next global climate strike on the 24th, which in many countries in the world will be the first return to in-person strikes since the pandemic. We are also seeing the potential for mass protests at COP26, the UN summit, where establishment politicians will meet and pat themselves on the back for agreeing to make the minimal changes that they probably won't even carry through, right? So we need to build for protests on September 24th, but also this November for COP26, whether you can come to Glasgow yourself and join international socialist alternative activists, or get involved with protests locally wherever you live. I think we need to learn from the vibrancy, though, of the protests in 2019, but also learn the lessons from them as well. Because if we couldn't trust the capitalist class then in 2019, after the period of increased devastation we've seen, increased suffering we've seen during the pandemic, as well as seeing movements such as the global feminist wave and Black Lives Matter expose the oppression that's endemic to the system since 2019, we should have absolutely no trust in the capitalist class to make the necessary changes. So all young people who are in schools and colleges right now have a brilliant role to play, a really important role to play in terms of organizing in your own school, spreading the word about the climate strike and protests. Whether you can set up a strike committee in your school, even if that means going behind the backs of school authorities. I know in 2019, I would be seen sticking flyers in the protests of school bathrooms and like in people's lockers and stuff. If that's what you need to do to get the word out there, feel free to use your TikTok, use all your social media accounts, reach out to any organizations in your local community, your student union. But we also need to remember the roots of strike action. I think this is something that if we saw in 2019 could have made the protest so much more powerful, right? Strike has the power to actually shut down the economy and show who really has the power, who really produces the value, who really allows the system to run. So even if your school management aren't totally supportive of the climate strike, talk to your teachers, talk to the local teachers' unions, bring the staff along with you, but also now is the time to force trade unions into actions on the issue of the climate, because there would be nothing more powerful to force our demands louder than actually a general strike of workers in all industries on the climate issue. I think it can sound this can sound like such a massive task, but as the climate crisis is only worsening and we're seeing increased anger and outrage as it's becoming more and more real to our everyday lives, we are going to see increased potential for struggle to emerge as well, right? And as Lenin pointed out, there will be no final crisis of capitalism unless it is given a death blow by the working class. It will continue to make billions of people suffer, further decimate the environment, and cause new wars. So we need to recognize that in the crisis that we are facing right now, we are really at a crossroads. Sorry to be quoting Lenin and then quoting Luxemburg, between socialism or barbarism. So even if there aren't going to be mass protests on the climate issue by the end of 2021, wherever you're living, you listening to this podcast right now shows that it is necessary, as we're seeing strikes and protests, open up again on so many different issues of oppression and exploitation, that we are able to have the force necessary to take these strikes, take these protests, and bring them into revolutionary moments that can actually have the power to overturn society. And that means getting involved with the International Socialist Alternative as we are mobilizing for the COP26 protests. I'm sure there will be a Google form somewhere in the description or in the comments. So definitely sign up. We can't wait to see you all there.